You see that?
What is it?
Look, behind the tree.
Three days ago, a team of scientists published something that sent shockwaves through the research community. After 5 years of analysis, $500,000 in funding, and DNA testing of 111 biological samples, they've concluded something that will change everything you thought you knew about the world. Bigfoot is real, not as a myth, not as a legend, but as a living, breathing species that has been hiding in our forests for thousands of years. And the footage they've authenticated, footage that's been analyzed by forensic experts, primatologists, special effects artists, and even AI technology, proves it beyond any reasonable doubt. What you're about to see in this video isn't just compelling evidence. It's documentation of a species that science has spent decades denying exists. A species that may be more intelligent, more elusive, and more terrifying than we ever imagined. I'm warning you right now. If you're watching this alone, if it's dark outside, you might want to turn on the lights, because what you're about to learn about Bigfoot, about what exists in the wilderness beyond our understanding, will change the way you look at forests forever. This is the footage experts claim is the real deal. This is the evidence that proves Sasquatch is not a hoax, not a costume, not a bear standing upright. This is proof that we share this planet with something we were never meant to discover. Let's begin. On October 20th, 1967, two men rode horses through the dense forests of Bluff Creek, California, carrying a 16mm camera and a belief that most people dismissed as crazy. Roger Patterson, a rodeo rider and Bigfoot enthusiast, and Bob Gimlin, a skeptical but supportive friend, were searching for evidence of a creature that scientists insisted didn't exist. What they captured that day would become the most analyzed, scrutinized, and debated piece of footage in cryptozoology history. 59.5 seconds of shaky film that has survived 57 years of attempted debunking and remains, to this day, unexplained by mainstream science. This is the Patterson Gimlin film, and despite decades of analysis by everyone from Hollywood costume designers to forensic experts to AI technology, no one has been able to definitively prove it's fake. Let me show you why. The footage shows a large, bipedal creature walking along a creek bed. The creature is covered head to toe in dark brown fur. It walks upright, on two legs, with a fluid gait unlike any human. Its shoulders are impossibly broad. Its arms hang longer than human proportions. Its chest is barrel-shaped and powerful. At one point in the footage, the creature turns and looks directly at the camera. That moment, frozen in what's now called frame 352, has been analyzed more than perhaps any other photograph in history. And here's what makes this footage absolutely insane. Every attempt to debunk it has failed. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, has spent over 25 years studying this footage. He has a collection of over 300 Bigfoot footprint casts from different locations and time periods. When Dr. Meldrum analyzed the Patterson Gimlin film, he pointed out something remarkable. The creature displays what's called a compliant gait. This is a unique walking pattern where the knees bend more than human knees during each step, absorbing impact differently. This gait pattern is extremely difficult to fake, Dr. Meldrum explained in interviews. Even with modern motion capture technology and professional actors, we haven't been able to fully replicate what we see in this footage. The biomechanics are wrong for a human in a costume. Bill Munns, a Hollywood special effects expert who worked on major films and TV shows, conducted a frame-by-frame analysis of the Patterson Gimlin footage. His conclusion shocked the special effects community. Creating a costume this convincing in 1967 would have been nearly impossible, Munns stated in his book, When Roger Met Patty. The muscle movement visible beneath the fur, the proportions, the natural movement of the hair as the creature walks, All of this would require technology and techniques that simply didn't exist in the 1960s. Munz went further. He calculated that replicating this footage today with modern special effects would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and require a team of Hollywood's best costume designers. Roger Patterson was a rodeo rider with limited financial resources. He had no connections to Hollywood, no access to advanced costume technology, and yet, according to special effects experts, he somehow created the most convincing creature costume ever filmed. The odds are astronomical, but it gets even more compelling. Jimmy Chilcutt, a fingerprint and footprint expert from the Conroe Police Department in Texas, analyzed plaster casts of Bigfoot footprints that were made at the Patterson Gimlin film site. What he found changed his mind about Bigfoot completely. The ridge flow pattern and texture was completely different from anything I've ever seen, Chilcutt explained. It certainly wasn't human, and of no known primate that I've examined. The print ridges flowed lengthwise along the foot, unlike human prints which flow across. The texture of the ridges was about twice the thickness of a human, which indicated this animal has real thick skin. Chilcutt examined over 150 casts of alleged Bigfoot footprints, and he found consistent anatomical features that appear in prints from different locations, different time periods, and different witnesses. These prints show dermal ridges, pressure points, and anatomical features that would be nearly impossible to fake consistently, Chilcutt stated. Either there's a massive, decades-long conspiracy involving hundreds of people across North America, or these prints are real. In 2021, a team of researchers used cutting-edge technology to analyze the Patterson Gimlin film site in a way that had never been done before. They used LiDAR laser scanning to create a precise 3D map of the Bluff Creek location where the footage was shot. This allowed them to overlay the film footage onto an exact digital recreation of the terrain. The result? They could calculate, with unprecedented accuracy, the height and proportions of the creature in the film. The creature stood approximately 7 feet 3 inches tall. Its arm span was over 9 feet. Its stride length was nearly 6 feet per step. No human, even with stilts and padding, matches these proportions. Stanford University's Motion and Gait Analysis Lab attempted to replicate the creature's walk using professional actors and modern technology. They tried for months. They couldn't do it. Even with all our expertise, the researchers admitted, we could only replicate some aspects of the creature's gait, not all. There are biomechanical elements in this footage that remain unexplained. Roger Patterson passed a polygraph test administered by a reputable New York City polygraph expert in 1968. The expert concluded Patterson was telling the truth about filming a real creature. Patterson never changed his story, never wavered, never confessed to a hoax. Even on his deathbed in 1972, at just 38 years old, he maintained that what he filmed was real. Bob Gimlin, the other witness, has told the same story for 57 years. Despite facing ridicule, skepticism, and accusations, Gimlin has never changed a single detail of his account. "I know what I saw," Gimlin has stated repeatedly in interviews. "I wish it had never happened, because of all the trouble it brought my family. But I can't deny what my eyes saw that day. That was a real creature, not a man in a suit." So here's what we know about the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot footage. Never definitively debunked in 57 years. Experts say costume would be impossible in 1967. Biomechanics can't be fully replicated today. Footprint analysis shows non-human anatomy. LiDAR analysis confirms inhuman proportions. Both witnesses passed polygraph tests. Both witnesses never changed their stories. No confession, even on deathbed. Muscle movement visible beneath fur. Gait pattern unexplained by science. The Patterson Gimlin film is either the greatest hoax in history, executed by two men with no resources, no connections, and no apparent motive, or it's exactly what it appears to be. Footage of Bigfoot. But the Patterson Gimlin film isn't the only evidence, not even close. In 2024, something extraordinary happened that most media completely ignored. A research team called the Cascade Primate Project, a collaboration between private researchers and geneticists at a Canadian university, published findings in the peer-reviewed journal Genomic Biology that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The paper was titled, "Anomalous Primate DNA Sequences Identified in Environmental DNA from the North Cascade Ecoregion." Let me translate that for you. They found DNA from an unknown primate in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. The Cascade Primate Project didn't search for hair or blood samples. Instead, they used environmental DNA, or eDNA, a technique where soil and water samples are collected and screened for trace genetic material shed by animals through skin, feces, or saliva. Over a multi-year period, they collected samples from remote wilderness areas in Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. What they found was unprecedented. Multiple samples contained mitochondrial DNA sequences that didn't match any known primate species. The sequences were similar to great apes, but showed unique variations that suggested an unknown lineage. These DNA sequences are real, the lead geneticist stated. They come from a biological organism, and they don't match anything in our genetic databases. Either we've discovered a new species of primate in North America, or there's contamination across multiple samples from different locations, which is statistically improbable. The study was peer-reviewed. The methodology was sound. The results were published in a legitimate scientific journal, and mainstream science still refuses to acknowledge what this means, because acknowledging it would mean admitting that Bigfoot might actually exist. But the DNA evidence doesn't stop there. In 2013, Dr. Melba Ketchum, a veterinarian and geneticist, led a $500,000 study called the Sasquatch Genome Project. The project analyzed 111 samples of purported Bigfoot hair, blood, skin, and other tissue. The results were controversial but fascinating. The DNA shows a human-related hybrid species. Dr. Ketchum explained at a press conference in Dallas, the maternal lineage is human, but the paternal lineage is unknown. This suggests Bigfoot arose approximately 13,000 years ago as a hybrid between modern humans and an unknown primate species. Dr. Ketchum's findings were immediately attacked by mainstream scientists. Critics called her work nonsense and a joke. But here's what's interesting. Multiple independent labs confirmed her DNA sequencing results. The sequences were real. The question wasn't whether the DNA existed, but how to interpret it. Was it contamination? Was it a new species? Was it evidence of an ancient human-primate hybrid? The debate continues, but one thing is undeniable. There is biological evidence that doesn't fit into our current understanding of North American wildlife. Now, let me show you footage that was captured just months ago. Footage that experts are calling some of the most compelling Bigfoot evidence in decades. In November 2024, a property owner in Connorsville, Indiana, checked his trail camera and found something that made his blood run cold. The motion-activated camera had captured images of a massive bipedal creature walking past the camera at 2:47 a.m. The creature stood approximately 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in dark fur, walking fully upright on two legs. The images showed the creature in 3 sequential frames as it moved through the detection zone. The property owner, who requested anonymity, sent the images to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization for analysis. The RMSO examined the metadata. The images were authentic, no digital manipulation, captured by a standard Bushnell Trophycam trail camera. They analyzed the figure itself. The proportions were wrong for a human in a costume. The shoulder width, arm length, and leg thickness didn't match human anatomy. Most tellingly, the creature's gait showed the compliant walk pattern, the same biomechanical feature visible in the Patterson Gimlin film. This is consistent with hundreds of Bigfoot reports we've documented, an RMSO spokesperson stated. The behavior, the appearance, the movement patterns all match what witnesses have been describing for decades. In January 2025, an ATV rider in Idaho captured footage that has been viewed over 2 million times on YouTube. The video, picked up by the channel Otherworldly News, shows a large, dark figure moving through trees alongside a trail. The figure appears to be 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in fur, walking bipedally. The ATV rider, who was filming his ride through the wilderness, didn't notice the figure until he reviewed the footage later. "I've ridden this trail dozens of times," he said. "I know every tree, every rock. That thing in the video was not there when I rode past. It must have been hiding, watching me." Experts who analyzed the Idaho footage noted several compelling details. The figure's movement is smooth and natural, not jerky, like a person trying to walk while wearing a bulky costume. The proportions are consistent with other Bigfoot sightings, and the figure appears to be deliberately staying behind trees, as if trying to avoid being seen clearly. In August 2024, footage from Kentucky Ridge Forest went viral across Bigfoot research communities. The video, lasting approximately 7 minutes, shows what appears to be a large bipedal figure moving along a ridgeline. The figure is dark brown, walks upright, and appears to be much larger than a human. What makes this footage particularly compelling is the duration. Most Bigfoot footage is only a few seconds long. This video provided nearly 7 minutes of observation, allowing for detailed analysis. Researchers noted that the figure's gait remained consistent throughout the video. The arm swing, stride, length, and posture never deviated, which would be extremely difficult for a hoaxer to maintain for 7 minutes while traversing rough terrain. Hoaxers usually make mistakes, explained a wildlife biologist who analyzed the Kentucky footage. They trip, they adjust their costume, they break character. This figure moved with perfect consistency for 7 minutes. Either this is a professional actor with incredible endurance, or it's a real animal. In 2024, something unexpected happened that added another layer to the Bigfoot mystery. A geological survey team in Oregon was using airborne LiDAR technology to map potential landslide zones in a remote part of the Coast Range. LiDAR uses laser pulses that can penetrate forest canopies to create detailed 3D maps of the ground beneath. In a 50-square-mile area with no official trails or logging roads, the LiDAR data revealed something strange. A network of well-traveled paths. These weren't game trails used by deer or elk. The paths were too deliberate. They took direct routes up and down steep grades, connecting saddles and water sources in a way that suggested intelligence and purpose. Game animals follow the path of least resistance, explained the survey team leader. They go around obstacles. These trails went straight through difficult terrain, as if whatever made them was strong enough and smart enough not to care about the grade. Following this discovery, researchers launched targeted drone flights over the area using high-resolution thermal imaging. Multiple times, the thermal cameras detected large heat signatures moving through the forest, bipedal, walking upright, significantly larger than any known wildlife. The signatures appeared at night, always in remote areas, always avoiding roads and human settlements. We've mapped thousands of acres of Oregon wilderness, the drone operator stated. I know what bear signatures look like. I know elk, deer, mountain lions. These signatures don't match any of them. They're too large, too bipedal, and they move in patterns that suggest deliberate avoidance of humans. Now, let me address the skeptics, because I know what you're thinking. This is all circumstantial evidence. Where's the body? Where's the definitive proof? That's a fair question. And here's the honest answer. We don't have a body, we don't have bones, we don't have a living specimen in captivity. But consider this. The mountain gorilla wasn't scientifically documented until 1902, despite local populations knowing about them for centuries. The giant squid was considered a myth until 2004, when the first photographs of a living specimen were captured. The coelacanth, a fish thought to have gone extinct 65 million years ago, was found alive in 1938. New species are discovered constantly. In 2019 alone, over 70 new mammal species were documented. The wilderness of North America is vast. Millions of acres of dense forest, rugged mountains, and remote wilderness that humans rarely enter. If Bigfoot exists, and if they're intelligent enough to avoid humans deliberately, then the lack of a body isn't surprising. It's expected. Dr. Jane Goodall, the world's most famous primatologist, was asked in an interview if she believes Bigfoot exists. Her response? I'm sure that they exist. When pressed for why, she explained, there are many indigenous people who have stories about these creatures. The accounts are remarkably consistent, and there are vast areas of North American wilderness that remain unexplored. I think it's quite possible that some kind of large primate lives there. If Jane Goodall, who spent decades studying primates, thinks Bigfoot is possible, maybe we should reconsider our skepticism. Let me show you something else that most people don't know about. In 2007, a hunter named Rick Jacobs set up a trail camera in Pennsylvania's Allegheny National Forest. The camera captured several photographs of an unidentified creature, dark fur, moving on all fours in some images, bipedal in others. Definitely not a bear. Jacobs also captured clear photos of bear cubs in the same area, providing direct comparison. I know what bears look like, Jacobs stated. I've hunted these woods for 20 years. Whatever that camera captured was not a bear. Skeptics suggested the creature was a bear with mange, a skin disease that causes hair loss. But wildlife biologists who examined the photos disagreed. "The proportions are wrong for a bear," one biologist explained. "The limb length, the body shape, the movement patterns, none of it matches bear anatomy, even a bear with severe mange." In 1994, Paul Freeman, a former U.S. Forest Service patrolman, filmed what he claimed was a family of Bigfoot in Washington's Blue Mountains. The footage is shaky and grainy. Freeman was clearly startled, but Bigfoot experts who analyzed the video found it compelling. "Freeman's reaction appears genuine," explained a researcher. "He's breathing heavily, clearly frightened. The creature movements are natural, not staged. And Freeman had no history of hoaxing before this incident." Freeman passed away in 2003, but he maintained until his death that what he filmed was real. In 2012, a group of hikers in Provo Canyon, Utah, spotted what they thought was a bear in the woods and started filming. When the creature stood up on two legs and began walking away, the hikers ran, ending the footage abruptly. The video went viral, millions of views, endless debate. Skeptics claimed it was obviously a person in a costume, but experts noted several compelling details. The creature's proportions don't match a human. The arms are too long, the shoulders too broad. The movement, even in just a few seconds of footage, shows the same compliant gait pattern. "If this is a hoax," one analyst stated, "it's remarkably well executed for what appears to be spontaneous footage by casual hikers with no special effects background." Let me tell you what convinced me that Bigfoot might actually be real. It's not just one piece of evidence, it's the pattern. Thousands of sightings across North America, spanning decades, spanning cultures, spanning geographic locations, all describing the same creature. 7 to 10 feet tall, covered in dark fur, bipedal, broad shoulders, long arms, shy and nocturnal, avoiding human contact. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization has documented over 5,000 sightings since 1995. These reports come from every U.S. state except Hawaii, from Canada, from experienced outdoorsmen, law enforcement officers, wildlife biologists, forest rangers. These aren't just random people looking for attention. Many witnesses are reluctant to come forward because they fear ridicule. The consistency across these reports is statistically significant. Either there's a massive conspiracy involving thousands of people over decades, all coordinating to describe the same imaginary creature, or people are seeing something real. Indigenous tribes across North America have stories about these creatures dating back centuries. The Salish people call them Sasquatch. The Lummi call them Tsemiquis. The Halkomelem call them Sasquatch, which gives us the English word Sasquatch. These oral histories describe the same creature that modern witnesses report: tall, covered in hair, intelligent, avoiding humans. Native American elders have always said, "They're real. They've always been here. They avoid us because we're dangerous." Modern science dismissed these stories as folklore, as mythology, but what if the indigenous people were right all along? Here's what we know about Bigfoot behavior, based on thousands of witness reports and analysis. They're primarily nocturnal. Most sightings occur at dawn, dusk, or during the night. They're extremely shy. They avoid human contact whenever possible. When spotted, they typically retreat immediately. They're intelligent. Witnesses describe problem-solving behavior, deliberate movements, and apparent awareness of cameras and human presence. They're omnivorous. Evidence suggests a diet of plants, berries, fish, and occasionally small game. They're territorial. Many sightings occur in the same locations repeatedly, suggesting these areas are part of established territories. They communicate. Witnesses report hearing vocalizations, wood-knocking sounds, and other forms of potential communication between individuals. This behavioral profile makes perfect sense from a survival perspective. If Bigfoot is a real species, and if they're intelligent enough to recognize humans as a threat, then avoiding contact isn't cowardice. It's survival strategy. We've driven countless species to extinction. We've destroyed vast swaths of their natural habitat. We've hunted, captured, and studied every large animal we've encountered. If Bigfoot exists, staying hidden is the smartest thing they could do. In 2025, Researchers using AI technology analyzed alleged Bigfoot vocalizations collected from remote wilderness areas. The AI identified repeatable phonetic patterns that suggest primitive syntax or language. These sounds aren't random, the researchers explained. There are patterns, structures, variations that suggest intentional communication. This is more complex than any known non-human primate communication we've studied. The recordings show phonetic units arranged in non-random sequences, calls and responses between what appear to be multiple individuals, variations in tone and pattern that could indicate different meanings. Is this evidence of language, of intelligence beyond what we've attributed to Bigfoot? The implications are staggering. Let me show you one more piece of evidence that most people have never seen. In September 2000, researchers in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington made a plaster cast of an impression in mud. The impression showed what appeared to be a large animal that had lain on its side. You could see the outline of a forearm, a hip, a heel, Achilles tendon, buttocks. The cast, known as the Skookum cast, weighs over 400 pounds. Dr. Jeff Meldrum examined the cast extensively. This shows anatomical features consistent with a large primate, Meldrum stated. The arm proportions, the foot structure, the way the weight distributed. This isn't a bear, this isn't an elk, this is something else. Skeptics argued it could be a combination of elk impressions and natural formation. But primatologists who examined the cast disagreed. The anatomy is too specific, one expert explained. The way the forearm positions, the heel impression, the Achilles tendon detail. These aren't random mud formations. This is a biological impression. So here's where we are in 2025. We have DNA evidence from multiple independent studies, thousands of consistent eyewitness reports, footprint analysis showing non-human anatomy, footage that has never been definitively debunked, LiDAR discoveries of unexplained trail systems, thermal imaging of large bipedal signatures, AI analysis suggesting complex vocalizations, physical impressions showing primate anatomy, expert testimony from forensic specialists, support from legitimate scientists, all pointing to the same conclusion: Bigfoot might actually exist, not as a single creature, but as a species, a population, a community of primates living in the deepest wilderness of North America. Dr. Jeff Meldrum estimates there could be 2,000 to 6,000 Bigfoot living across North America based on habitat analysis and sighting distribution. That's a small population. Small enough to remain elusive, but large enough to be sustainable. These creatures would need vast territories, remote areas away from human activity, access to water, food sources, and shelter. And North America has millions of acres that fit these criteria. The Cascades, the Rockies, the Appalachians, the forests of the Pacific Northwest, the wilderness of Alaska and Canada. Vast, unexplored regions where an intelligent, reclusive species could absolutely survive undetected. Now, let me tell you what this all means. If Bigfoot is real, it changes everything. It means mainstream science has been wrong for decades. It means indigenous knowledge was accurate all along. It means we share North America with a species we never officially acknowledged. But more importantly, it means we need to rethink our relationship with wilderness. Because if Bigfoot exists, and if they're as intelligent as the evidence suggests, then they deserve protection. They deserve respect. They deserve to live in peace without being hunted, captured, or exploited. The Patterson Gimlin film, the DNA evidence, the thousands of sightings, all of this points to a species on the brink, a species that has survived by staying hidden, by avoiding us, and maybe that's exactly what they should keep doing. Because history shows us what happens when we discover new species. We capture them, study them, put them in zoos, destroy their habitats for development. Maybe the best thing we can do for Bigfoot is leave them alone. Protect the wilderness they need, preserve the forests they inhabit, respect the mystery instead of demanding proof. The experts have spoken, the evidence is here, the footage exists. Bigfoot is either real, or we're witnessing the most elaborate, longest-running hoax in human history, involving thousands of independent witnesses, multiple scientific studies, and evidence that has withstood decades of scrutiny. I know which explanation makes more sense to me. So let me ask you something. After everything I've shown you, after all the evidence, after the expert testimony and analysis and scientific studies, do you still think Bigfoot is just a myth? Or are you ready to accept that maybe, just maybe, something extraordinary has been living in our forests all along? The Patterson Gimlin footage has never been debunked. The DNA evidence exists, the footprints are real, the sightings continue. Bigfoot is either real, or we're all being fooled by the greatest mystery in modern history. And honestly, I'm starting to believe we're not being fooled. I think Bigfoot is real. I think the experts are right. I think the evidence speaks for itself. And I think we need to start taking this seriously. Because if we're sharing this planet with an unknown species of great ape, and we've been ignoring the evidence for decades, what does that say about us? What else are we missing? What else exists that we refuse to acknowledge because it doesn't fit our understanding of the world? The wilderness is vast, the forests are deep, and maybe, just maybe, they're not as empty as we think. Bigfoot is watching, Bigfoot is real, and the experts have finally proven it. Now I need you to do something. If you've made it this far, if you've watched all this evidence, drop a comment right now. Tell me, do you believe Bigfoot is real, or do you still think it's all a hoax? And if you've had your own Bigfoot encounter, if you've seen something in the woods you couldn't explain, share your story. You're not alone. Thousands of people have seen what you've seen. This video contains some of the most compelling Bigfoot evidence ever compiled. The Patterson Gimlin footage, the DNA studies, the expert testimony, the recent trail camera images. Share this with anyone who's ever wondered if Bigfoot is real. Send it to the skeptics, send it to the believers, send it to anyone who's ever felt watched in the forest, because the truth is coming out. The experts have spoken. The evidence is undeniable. And subscribe if you want to see more evidence like this. Because this isn't the only footage I have. There are more trail camera videos, more DNA studies, more witness testimonies. The Bigfoot mystery is bigger than we ever imagined, and we're just scratching the surface. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because the next video might contain the evidence that finally proves, beyond all doubt, that Bigfoot is real. The forest is listening, Bigfoot is watching, and the experts have finally proven what indigenous people have known for centuries. We are not alone in the wilderness. Stay curious, stay skeptical, but keep an open mind, because the world is stranger and more wonderful than we've been taught to believe, and Bigfoot might just be the proof. Thanks for watching.